Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Best Practices to Turbocharge Your Agent Productivity. This webinar is brought to you by Express Computer in partnership with Symphony Summit AI. I'm Sudipta Dev, Senior Associate Editor with Express Computer. The efficiency of an IT service management function is directly dependent on the knowledge and ability of the agents who are responsible for resolving issues for customers. The productivity of an agent is also directly dependent on how quickly can the agent find out relevant information and solve customer problems. Our speakers for the day will share with you the best practices and perspectives for raising the bar for agent productivity. In short, they can show you how you can turn your agents into super agents. I would like to welcome Rajashekharan Unikrishnan, Director Marketing, Symphony Summit AI, and Mr. Rishi Sundaraman, Associate Director, Symphony Summit AI. But before I hand over to them, I'll go over the house rules. This is an audio and video webinar being broadcasted live and will be available as on demand. We will have polls in between the webinar. I request you all to participate in the same. We will have a round of Q&A at the end of the webinar. However, you can send in your questions anytime during the webinar using the Q&A text box. If you face any technical issues, please try to refresh your browser or else reach out to our team using the same questions text box. If any of your questions are unanswered, we will connect with you over email to answer the same. So that's all from my side now. Without taking more of your time, I invite Rajashekharan to take the session forward. Over to you, Rajashekharan.
Thank you. I hope you guys are doing extremely well, and thanks for taking time out to join today's session. Moving on to the topic, let's look at a day in the life of an enterprise support analyst. As per a research, 68% of the organizations have seen tremendous increase in the support requests post-pandemic. Let's look at the typical service request, what they really get. It's something like that: I need to reset my password, or I need access for SharePoint, or how do I access Wi-Fi for the people who are really going to the offices, and I need virtual machine or extra storage space and the other things, and the requests coming from other functions like HR and the other things, from like creating a user active directory or allocation of laptop to the new joinees and the others. These are the typical service requests an IT support desk receives on a day-to-day basis. And let's really look at what are the employee expectations? Specifically, if you really just give me a second. Employees have high expectations on their service needs or their support needs. They expect their support needs to be addressed immediately, and at whatever the time they have this. Their requirement could come on probably on a Friday midnight after the office hours, or during Sunday afternoon time, or during any holiday. So they expect their service request to be fulfilled or addressed immediately. This could be that, okay, probably having an access for urgent share folder, or maybe having a virtual machine to go and test their application, so on and so forth. And they expect any desired information is available on any device at a person when they really need it. So what does it mean? One doesn't want to just go and log into the laptop and then just go to the service portal and then just raise the request. So probably they would want the access even from, say, mobile, or probably raising the request through probably the Teams or any other web chat which the person is already in. So these are the expectations of the employees. Let's look at on the other side, the IT support team. They really struggle to meet the growing demands which is coming from the employees. And the support agents today, I'm sure that you would really agree that they are actually overloaded with repetitive, mundane service requests and the other things coming from the employees. And they really struggle to sort of really fulfill the growing needs, and they spend most of their time doing the repetitive service requests, which comes from the employees. Your employees deserve a better experience. A robust digital employee experience is the most impactful investment your organization can really make. Let's look at what exactly is the next generation employee experience? Employees expect their workplace technologies to work something like the way, okay, they use in their personal lives. Let's look at that. If they have a service needs from their banks, how do they do it? They just open their mobile phone. If they need a demand draft or a checkbook or any other service needs, they just go open their mobile app and then just sort of really place the request and it gets addressed. Or day-to-day basis, their groceries, or maybe like, okay, ordering the food, all of that thing. So they expect the same kind of a consumerized experience even inside the organization for their enterprise needs. That's essentially the employees are really looking for. And they expect quick and easy access at any point of time across all the devices. They expect omni-channel experience, which the organization should really deliver. And they want to really, okay, break the manual siloed process with easy digital workflow and the automation. Outcome of all of this stuff, you are able to create very engaged, exceptional employee experience. And when you have an engaged employee, so they are more productive at work and they deliver better outcomes. So I'm not sure that, okay, how many of you know about Symphony Summit AI? We have a very interesting use cases. My colleague Rishi will share with you shortly. Before that, I just want to take a few minutes to really explain what is Symphony Summit AI all about. I'm not sure that, okay, how many of you know about it. A leading analyst firm positions Summit AI as a disruptor and the fast emerging player in the IT management space. We have customers across the globe. And just to give you one slide overview about Symphony Summit AI, we are a leading artificial intelligence-driven IP and service management suite. We have been positioned and recognized as the Gartner Peer Insights Customer's Choice last 3 years in a row. We've been featured in the IDC market space and the Forrester Now Connect. Summit AI has been the preferred choice of the CIO. We have been winning the CIO choice recognition last 4 years in a row. Early this year, Economic Times positioned Summit AI as the best technology brands, and we are largely part of a Symphony AI group, which is headquartered in Los Altos in the US, a portfolio company with an investment of about $1 billion on the artificial intelligence and the other automation investments. We've grown to 240 plus customers in the last few years. We have customers across the industries, and if you really look at that, the leading consulting firms to the leading global fortune companies are the customers of us. I have another slide that sort of really explains this in better. And if you really look at how we sort of really rank among the competition, Summit AI is an enterprise class IT service management, IT enterprise service management suite. And along with that, so we sort of really, if you look at the other leading players in the same space, that would be BMC, ServiceNow, or the Sharewell. As per Gartner Customer's Choice, we have been rated far higher compared to all the ratings, all the evaluation criteria, be it willingness to recommend, product capabilities, evaluation and contracting, integration and deployment, and service and support. Summit AI has been rated far compared to the immediate players in the space. With that, I will invite my colleague, Rishi, to come back and demonstrate that how Summit AI could help deliver exceptional digital employee experience. Rishi?
Thank you, Raj. Thank you for that. Thanks for setting the context for my demo. So yes, the key takeaway from Raj insights is primarily productivity, right? So let us quickly look at how Summit AI delivers this productivity through various of its features, right, which are primarily provided in the block here. What we primarily speak about is primarily operational intelligence. Primarily, how do we enable when we talk about turbocharge productivity of an agent, right? How does that Summit as a platform really enable that? So we provide an operational intelligence whereby with minimal training or minimal exposure to the support environment, right? Agents can use this predefined data or contextual information that is provided to an agent, right? to resolve any incident, which provides better turnaround times for an end user or the employee who's reaching out for the support, right? So it provides a complete insights in terms of previous incidents that have been raised, how a previous analysts have handled it, right? With minimal training, right? Analyst or the agent, right, will be able to address the solution for the end user, right? It also provides the entire environmental information, whether there are any known error data that is available, which he can reference, right? So the objective primarily here of operational intelligence to enable higher first call resolution so that the ticket does not hops between multiple work groups, so that or multiple teams, so that ultimately the end user is not able to come back to productivity in the least possible time, right? So that's primarily a highlight of operational intelligence. Next, of course, is primarily the service automation, whereby Raj spoke about talking about repeated and mundane tasks, right? For example, adding a user to a distribution list, right? Or probably creating a user in a domain, right? So this primarily is primarily a task of a senior engineer in the organization who enjoys privileged accesses in the system, right? So he has to do a data entry work in terms of creating this user by typing in his first name, last name. So what the repeated and mundane tasks are like this, right, would not require any specific skill set, whereby the automation can step in and ensure that the moment the user has requested some kind of access or some kind of enablement of a service, this can be provisioned automatically with the zero human intervention, right? So that is primarily one of the key drivers for better agent productivity, whereas with a lesser human intervention, the services request or the incident break fix event of an end user is quickly addressed. Next comes is gamification, right? Why it becomes important in a productivity scenario is where you talk about turbocharge productivity. One is primarily that gamification provides a rewarding environment. When I say rewarding, and it also drives certain specific service desk culture. When I say service desk culture, generally it is a habit, right? For a reason that an engineer does put the ticket on hold, right? So when you define a gamification point that if he's resolving a ticket or addressing a ticket without putting the ticket on hold, right, he can get bonus points or he can get a voucher or something, right? Immediately the behavioral change is driven through this gamification process, right? It is in healthy and transparent. We are not primarily forcing, right? It's primarily a rewarding environment. We offer the gamification offers a rewarding environment for every task that an agent would do in the service desk environment, right? So this is primarily there. And of course, most of the time, next is we talk about service skill management, right? So the service desk is a combination of various set of skill set people who are available there, right? The system by itself, the moment anybody who raises primarily an incident or a break fix event or make a service request, the system is able to auto categorize and identify who will be the best analyst to start working on it. Primarily, we talk about service desk intelligence here. The moment the ticket is raised, right, the AI-driven environment of Summit will help identifying who will be the prime target for handling this particular issue, and based on which it auto assigns, right, by ensuring that the analyst workload is evenly distributed, right? So then we talk about service assist, which is primarily in an event of specific problems, issues that are coming up for an end user, requires privileged access to certain environment, right? So those kind of privileged access will require privileged access metrics that like username, password, right, which cannot be exposed to an L1 engineer. So, right, to reduce the workload of an L2 engineer, what happens is primarily, for example, if there is some kind of application is not working at the client level, there might be a small server-related script that needs to be enabled. To access that service-related script, what you primarily an L1 engineer might not have is, he might not have the privilege access. What he generally does is, he moves the ticket to an L2 3 engineer who has the privilege access. This is again not good for when we are talking about better turnaround time. So service assist is primarily an automation feature where a script is given, right, where the L1 engineer can call the script without knowing the necessary credentials of the privileged systems that are given. So it can go and execute the script and return back to the result, right? So these are some of the key features that we wanted to highlight how Summit offers this productivity engine, right? So moving on to next, primary, what are the top 5 highlighters we have in terms of the feature set in Summit? One is primarily, we talked about service desk intelligence, where the AI-driven conversational interface 3D is able to identify when a ticket is logged. It can identify where the ticket needs to go, to whom the ticket needs to go, and who will be the right person to address this ticket. Then we spoke about operational intelligence. It also provides a conducive environment for an analyst to create war rooms, for example, when a major event or major downtime that has happened in an environment. So analysts will be able to create a war room using the major incident management process, using the collaboration tools like MS Teams, WebEx, and other things, which we'll talk about in the demo session that we are going to have, right? And plus again, it also provides a complete demographic information about what is in my bucket, right? Primarily as an analyst, I need to know what is that I have to fulfill by resolving the tickets. So that is there. And we talked length in about the orchestration feature. Let us quickly look at how the service desk intelligence features work, right? So primarily here is primarily an user who is logging into Summit, right, to raise an incident saying that his VPN is not working. He provides a small problem statement with a description, and based on which the AI-driven Cindy picks up this information, and then it scans through the historical record, and then based on which it identifies what are the relevant data or how a human analyst has handled it previously. Based on that, it makes its prediction and then puts it in the respective buckets. So this is primarily what happens is primarily it eliminates the need of L0, L1 engineer, whereby the human analyst, right, can be used for more intellectual work rather than these mundane work, right? Then moving, primarily we talked about major incident management, creating war rooms, whereby the analyst, the moment he identifies, he will be able to set up a conference bridge either through MS Teams, WebEx, Twilio, or probably a virtual conference bridge, a virtual voice conference bridge that can be established, based on which the respective team members or the stakeholders of this major incident management process is notified, and based on which they can come on to the conference bridge and quickly address it. And across all these areas, it's properly documented well and notified to the respective stakeholders through various channels, right? So with that, I make a stop here and move on to the actual demo. How does, in real time, how does it happen through my sandbox that I have here? So imagine a scenario that primarily an user, right, like Ryan, who is reaching out to the help desk to log a ticket, right? So this is where Summit really intelligently helps or suggests, right? The moment somebody is talking about Outlook is not working, right? You have primarily problem statements already populating, based on which is primarily using the power of rules. You will be able to, as you can see, the moment I created a problem statement, all the necessary mandated ITL attributes are auto-populated using the rules, right? And they don't have to really go and click on these multiple boxes attributes as an analyst, which primarily consumes a considerable amount of time, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. And this 2 to 3 minutes is quickly saved using the rules. The moment you define rules, if there is any problem statement that has the word Outlook, right, immediately it is classified into various buckets, and based on which it gets auto-assigned to the event of who will be the respective engineer who will be handling it. And these rules can be, n number of rules can be created. The system provides configurable options for the users primarily to look at and create various rules scenarios, and based on which these rules can be powerful in reducing in terms of categorizing and classifying the incidents, right? So once that is done, once the event is logged, right, to the end user, what the agent is provided with the intuitive dashboard or the agent workspace, right? Here he is completely presented with the demographic information about the tickets that are in his queue and what is in his team's queue, and where exactly he has to focus his attention, right? In terms of how is he faring on his response and his resolution SLA, and where has to address. And more importantly, it also classifies the ticket under various buckets, and based on which he will be able to quickly identify where his focus has to be. In addition to that, we also spoke about gamification, which is primarily a reward mechanism, whereby for every action that an analyst takes, he is giving a set of positive and negative points, right? So if he does not put the ticket on hold or pending, he gets bonus points. If he creates a knowledge-based article, if he resolves the ticket without putting within the response time, he gets bonus points. The accumulation of these positive and negative points in real time, he is given various badges, right? So once it is done, primarily he can look at the incidents. How does he go about in terms of addressing the incidents or attacking the incidents for resolution in a quick manner, right? He has primarily a very intuitive filter options. Of course, many of the products do offer this. So what is unique about this primarily is you don't have to primarily remember the sequence of filter. You can always save it. For example, if I want to pick up VIP incidents, right, who are categorized as VIP incidents, I can quickly pick up those incidents and start working on it, right? So it also provides, without getting into the tickets, it gives me the overview of what is primarily the symptom and description, what is the problem statement that the user has given, right? Provides complete information about the SLA, and also provides information about quick summary of the tickets and where this ticket is, right? So once he does that, he can always get into the ticket, and whereby he has the options to quickly resolve this ticket. One is primarily the ticket is already classified, and most importantly, he knows this is primarily the user who needs some kind of support. He can quickly use the remote desktop feature, whereby he will be able to quickly connect to the end user, whether he's within the LAN or outside the network or in some remote location. He will be able to quickly take a remote desktop, and based on which he can have a quick connectivity to the end user, which again primarily provides a quick turnaround times to the end user in resolving the ticket, right? The options primarily are numerous here. One is primarily for every ticket that is there, you also can identify that as a major incident management process, which I spoke about. If the analyst identifies this as a major incident management, he has a quick configuration options to pick up the necessary conference bridge, and he can identify who are the recipients who should be notified, and what is the basic diagnosis that he has done, and what are the preventive measures that he has. So immediately what happens is the moment is set up, and Microsoft Teams invite is sent to the respective stakeholders. Maybe here, let us say, like, right, somebody was, right, he is immediately intimated with the Teams invite meeting, right? Or probably if it is a quick voice conference, which, for example, whenever their stakeholders come, when there is a major downtime, or probably a ransomware attack that has happened, right, immediately you want to arrest and secure all the systems, right? The respective stakeholders, infra stakeholders will come in and prepare a checklist and go about and having in this war room. So this is primarily one of the quick war room creation option that an analyst has for better productivity, right? So in addition to that, how does he improve or reduce the number of repetitive incidents that are happening in the environment, right? So one is primarily the system also provides an intuitive checklist, whereby every incident that are primarily updated, right, or probably the progress of the ticket is moving from assigned to in progress, there is a defined checklist that comes, right? So this is something which is primarily a standard operating procedures that are given to an analyst when primarily he has to do a quick check of the respective troubleshooting steps and whether he is complying to that. So this primarily helps in reducing the number of repetitive incidents that are coming in. So one of the key features that I highlighted is primarily the troubleshooting of the operational intelligence, right? Where we talked about the agent, right, with minimal exposure or minimal experience, right, will be able to resolve this ticket by looking at what are the similar open incidents, what are the actionables that have been given, are there any relevant knowledge-based articles that can be referred for his resolution, or if there are any workarounds, if there is any environmental issue or probably changes in place, what is primarily the possible remediations that he can look at. is there any kind of root causes that have been there. So he can appropriately quickly take action if there is a known incident, that a known error that has been happening where there is a prolonged resolution time. He can always put the ticket on pending, right, by ensuring the SLA is not breached and appropriately given to the end user the appropriate information. So these are some of the things that primarily enhances the agent productivity. In addition to that, he also has a reminder option. In most cases in a help desk environment, one of the key things that happens is primarily the tickets are put under observation, right? For example, probably a problem resolution would have been given, but because of the intermittent issues that are coming up, you want to observe for a few days, based on which, after which the analyst wants to come back and address it. Here, it completely provides an option for a reminder in terms of providing the necessary date that he wants to get reminded about it, and based on which he gets the prompt reminder on that particular day, helping in terms of getting the necessary actionables and to resolve the ticket, right? So you also have a complete communication history. For example, if the user has to refer, right, or the analyst agent has to refer on the previous communications that are planned. So generally, in most cases, we see that he has to browse through various mails, right, communication, chat, because we talk about today in the current scenario, in the last webinar also, we had a session about how self-help options are enabled to using a chat bot, right? So that's wherein primarily the user can look at all communications that are presented to that, or probably if the ticket has been addressed by multiple engineers, he can have a complete history of the communication. So these are some of the things that are available for better agent productivity. As you can see, without much of a hassle, the agent was able to quickly provide the necessary updates, right? Each for every stage. For example, if the ticket is moving to in progress, right, the checklist will vary. As you can see, earlier it was 2, now it has been 3. Whether the necessary action based on the status, you can have your checklist can be populated dynamically, right? So these are some of the things that primarily will help an agent to deliver better productivity whenever an issue, when we talked about consumerized experience, right, or probably better turnaround time. He wants to know as this what is happening in his ticket, right? So these are some of the things that an agent will be able to provide to the end user, right? Moving on to primarily the other challenges that typically is encountered is primarily root or repetitive incidents that are happening in the environment. What you can primarily do is you can look at problem record management, which is primarily an auto creation of problem records. The system provides automated problem record when you have repetitive incidents, whereby this is primarily one of the key areas that services operations is looked at, whereby when there are repetitive incidents, right? For example, if in our organization, right, if I raise a ticket related to output issue, if there are 5 to 6 people raising similar incidents, right, there is something fundamentally that needs to be evaluated, a root cause analysis to be done. So how is the agent identified is by the problem record, auto problem record creation, using which he will be able to identify within a span of particular period of time how many such incidents have happened, and based on which it can generate problem record, right? So this is something is an auto problem record whereby the repetitive incidents can be quickly arrested, identified first, and then quickly getting arrested for easy resolution, right? So Summit also provides a detailed root cause analysis, which is primarily a key for completing agent productivity, which is primarily you can have various problem records that can be identified, based on which, right, I can use this filter option to quickly identify the problem records that are there. I can look at these problem records. I can pick up one of these problem records, and as an analyst, I can know the complete what kind of root cause analysis that has gone into this ticket, and you can also provide 5-why analysis. There are multiple ways of problem root cause analysis methodology that is there. So you can have the analyst team quickly filling in this option, which is primarily for the root cause analysis, right? So in addition to that, you also have a quick change in the value. You can set up CAB meetings, right? Whereby using this CAB meeting, you can quickly set up a change approval board meeting, and based on which you will be able to capture the relevant information. This CAB meeting is completely integrated with your Outlook as well as Microsoft Teams. So generally, this is a scheduled meeting that happens in any organization where there is a mature change practices, whereby the analyst will be able to quickly set up this meeting, and also most importantly, he will also be able to capture the actionables and the respective owners for this, primarily for this particular change, and he can also tag all the necessary change records that have been attached to the change management process, right? So the teams is completely integrated here. So the users, the analyst can quickly connect with this particular interface, right? Whereby setting up quick CAB meetings for the change management options that is coming, right? So we have, as I told you, we covered completely the intuitive filters that have been there, and primarily quickly setting up these views, right? What is primarily where the analyst has to focus his efforts, and based on which he or she will be able to primarily quickly resolve and address this issue and address it very easily. So, and most importantly, primarily, there are many areas whereby which the tickets needs to be associated with problem records. The user have to be associated with certain other things, parent-child relationship. The user or the analyst has the option to link those tickets in a quick manner by creating work order, or probably if there are work orders that are required where there is a dependency on primarily some other team, he can quickly link these work orders from this, or create work orders from this particular menu, right? Where the ticket is automatically handed over to the next team without needing to communicate through mails and other things. He can quickly collaborate with the respective teams that is there, right? So we also spoke about the communication. We also have canned responses that we can happen, right? This is one of the important. How does primarily the user or the analyst will be able to quickly communicate? For example, when the user is not available, right? You can have canned communications that are coming in, so that the user or the analyst does not have to type in the mails, complex mails and other things. He can pick up a template, and it also records the number of follow-up. For example, anytime when an issue is resolved, what happens is the user generally does not provide a response for issue closure, right? Though the ticket is resolved, it is not closed. So you can create three-strike policy by means with if the record follow-up count is primarily reach 3 numbers, you can auto close the incidents that are there, right? So of course, Cindy is always there, right? Cindy has an AI-driven interface which always tries to mimic a human analyst behavior. Whenever a ticket is coming in, Cindy always suggests certain set of impact. In case I feel that this has to go to a different work group as an analyst, I can always edit it. Cindy will continuously learn. So next time when it is categorizing the incident or a service request, it will be able to primarily create mimic the human analyst, and based on which it will be able to primarily auto-categorize, thereby reducing the need for L0, L1 engineers to doing this repetitive and mundane task.
Hi, Rishi.
Yeah.
Rishi, sorry to interrupt. There are a few questions you want to just take while you're on the relevant slides.
Yes.
Okay, so one question from Gandhi Shanmugam is that can we create implementation pool with list of agents?
Can you repeat that question? I had a break. Sorry.
So Gandhi Shanmugam, if you want, you can unmute and ask the question.
No, Rajshekharan, the audience, they will not be able to unmute, but if you want, I can read out the question, or we can do that, post your session, if that's all right,
All right, so he is there on the relevant page. So that's the reason I thought that maybe
Okay.
worth looking at it.
Okay.
Okay, so I will read out Rishi.
Yes, please. Yes.
Rishi, another question. Can we create a rule with some set of keywords which mentioned in description area directly route to a particular action, honor or honor groups?
Yes, you can do that. That is what I initially had wanted to showcase. So primarily using this rule functionality, you will be able to primarily define those options. For example, I'm picking up an existing, for example, Microsoft Outlook or probably Microsoft SP card having an issue. So I can create all these options, right? From this list, I can create multiple problem statements like this using the keywords, right?
Okay.
Right. You definitely can. Multiple keywords can be added. Or
Sure.
probably an SD card. You can.
Yeah. Audience, just please post your questions here. We will pick up the rest of the things post the session during the Q&A. Go ahead, Rishi.
So coming back to how an analyst will look at this. So many times what happens is primarily as part of audit requirements, analysts want to have primarily need to provide a proof of the data, how did the incident or a service request go through, right? The agents can quickly convert the data, right, of the incident from an export to a PDF form, right? So you can quickly, for audit purposes, many of the banking or highly audited industry, some of the regulatory or audited industry or banking, pharma industry and other things. So would like to have regular primarily data points or audit trails that are relevant to the ticket, why and when that change has happened, based on which you will be able to export this primarily to provide proof points or audit trails of an incident. Right? So from a change management standpoint, primarily you primarily have, we talked about CAB records, CAB meetings that can be set for setting up the CAB meeting. In addition to that, in change records, you have one of the key aspects of a change record is assessing the risk, right? So primarily, of course, the process is quite elaborate there, and based on which you have primarily assessment questions that can be brought up while making a change request, right? When an analyst identifies that this particular ticket needs to be associated with the change, and based on which he has to provide a business risk questionnaire in terms of, and these questions completely configurable, based on which the risk assessment of the change is already done. Or in addition to that, if he has, the analyst does not have to spend more time on filling all these details, he can always import it from a template, right? So from a various predefined change templates that are there, the analyst will be able to pick up this change request, which is primarily in a matter of few clicks, the entire information is automatically uploaded, right? So this is something which is available as part of the reduced timelines to create a change record, right? So that is something that, of course, we spoke about checklist, right? What kind of primarily the checklist that is required whenever the change is going through a particular phases, you want to ensure that the change process is of the highest quality and ensure that there are no to and fro communication happening between the change administrators or change managers, right? You can create a checklist based on each and every action that needs to be performed. The checklist is populated for an end user, right? So primarily, of course, it is completely interoperable between various modules, between the various ITL modules that are there, which is completely interoperable. That is there. Right? And more importantly, primarily from an administrator standpoint, one of the key areas is primarily asset management process is also one of the key areas of an agent, right, where he manages assets allocation and deallocation, and physical verification is one of the key areas that an analyst undertakes, right? So here primarily Summit will be able to primarily pick up, and using the barcode QR code scan upload, it will be able to primarily pick up the assets using the barcode scan QR code scanner, and you will be able to quickly verify and compare what is primarily the assets that are available with the stores, right? Primarily where the assets are located. So this is primarily one of the key areas where many of the organization spends months together to do this particular process. With Summit, right, it can happen in a few hours to days, depending on the how big your organization is. So this is one of the key aspect areas where an asset administrator or an agent who handles asset administration piece will be able to primarily. Right. So I would like to take a pause here and stop here, and probably I just wanted to understand the questions that are coming up. So can you help me orchestrate those questions? We can quickly get the answer in the given point of time.
Hi, Rishi. There is one question from Mohan J. The question is, in asset model, whether software distribution like silent installation is possible?
Yes, it is definitely. Yes, it is definitely possible, which is primarily there. So you can primarily look at the asset management process, where you will be able to pick up the respective software, and based on the software supported application supported arguments, you can pass on those silent parameters based on which you will be able to deploy this. So that is also one of the aspects where you don't have to spend time in taking remote desktop. The software distribution feature of Summit Asset Management is definitely does that.
Rishi, another question is that can we create multiple workflow in a single service request or change request, like onboarding a new team member into a project or getting physical and logical access?
Yes, it is definitely possible. Summit completely provides the flexible and configurable options for creating workflows, dynamic workflows based on the user's category, based on the location, based on the cost of the request that has been coming in, right? Depending on if you're probably in many of the offshore development centers, your reporting manager when you're onboarded is different, but when you're in a project, right, you are a project manager becomes. So those kind of dynamic scenarios are also completely handled, and it is completely configurable.
Sure. Okay. Another question, Rishi, from Ganjan Satwe is there option to set bulletin ticker as well?
Yes, definitely. It is there. So we have primarily bulletin ticker as well as periodic alerts that can come in, right? You can completely define highlight. You can also define when this particular ticker has to go to who are the targeted audience, right? Or to which location it is applicable. You can define that.
Okay. Another question around the licensing model. How is the licensing model, perpetual or agent?
So we can work that out, because primarily it depends on how typically the TCO is looked at, and we have a flexible option, right, which can be provided both in subscription and perpetual model. That is there.
Sure. All right. Audience, please feel free to post your questions.
We'll have a poll now. I think I request our tech team to launch the poll question, and meanwhile the audience can continue to send in their questions for our experts. Okay, so I'll read out the question for the benefit of the audience. So it is, are you looking for any of the following solutions in the next 6 to 12 months? It's a single choice question. The answers are either IT service management, enterprise service management, IT asset management, or none of the above. I'll again repeat the question. Are you looking for any of the following solutions in the next 6 to 12 months? I request the audience to please select one of the options. We still have a few seconds left, after which we will continue with the session and the Q&A with Rishi and Rajashekaran. Okay. So the polling is done. I'd like to ask, now we'll continue with the Q&A then. I'd like to ask this question, which has come from the audience. Is Summit AI instance available on Azure?
Yes. It is available on Azure. It is actually available on Azure. And we also provide, depending on the data privacy requirements, it can also be hosted in other clouds.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rishi. And how do you help customers in the journey of digital transformation? I know you've explained a lot before, but if you can just highlight and answer this question.
Yes, Summit has a very strong technical implementation team, right, where we go through a consultative implementation model, and based on which they would do an process assessment, and based on the process assessment, we also provide the 2B, what can be configured in the tool, what can be the best fit in the tool, and based on which we also bring in our industry experience that we have learned from implementing across various verticals, and based on that input, we provide our suggestions, and based on which we help in terms of adapting customers in terms of the digital journey.
Okay, thanks, Rishi. And we have quite a few questions from Mr. Gandhi. So there's one which I think you haven't answered. Can we create an implementer pool with list of agents?
Yes, you can create that. You can create a group depending on your requirement. You can group them into multiple groups, probably a network team, server team, or probably application team. You can create various work groups, and accordingly the SLAs can be assigned, and the data will be completely segregated between these work groups.
Would you like to give some more information, or do we conclude now, because we've answered quite a few of the audience questions? And is there some more information you'd like to give, or we conclude this?
I think I am good from our end. Primarily, Raj, probably any closing remarks that you would like to make?
Okay. Rishi, there is one last question from Irfan. Is there any option of API integration to create auto tickets based upon alerts?
Yes, definitely it is there. So that's part of the standard product offering, whereby APIs are available, and we have integrated with a lot of industry standard event monitoring tools that are there, based on which can be. So it can also do. We also have a very robust business rule designer. Based on certain status of the tickets, we can also initiate an API to third-party applications, depending on the need, or probably to an SDLC application or to an ERP or a CRM application. Anything, we can definitely do that.
Somebody is asking for the link for the license cost. We can't probably give it here, but maybe we can.
We can send a separate email with the details of that. We can do that. And team Summit AI would like to be the backbone for the digital transformation initiatives in your organization. We could help automate many manual tasks which is happening in the IT service management and some of the IT asset management use cases which Rishi has demonstrated now. We have more detailed demo which we can take up. Please reach out to us separately, and happy to have an in-depth discussion and how Summit AI could deliver value using our AI-driven IT and enterprise service management suite. And we look forward talking to you, connecting with you for a detailed discussion. Thank you. That's it, Sudipta, from our side.
Yes, thank you so much, Rishi and Rajashekaran, for helping us to understand how to boost employee and agent productivity and turn agents into super agents, And thanks for the patience. You answered so many of the audience questions very patiently. Thank you so much for that. And whatever remaining questions are there, we'll connect with the audience later. And thank you so much, audience, for your interest and time. And we look forward to welcoming you all in our next webinar soon. So have a great day ahead.